Huddle that we're going to have you. And I think Ron and you played together probably for 2 or 3 years. And he said, I had to try to train Vincent that there's a practice tempo and there was a game tempo. It was a full go. It was a full go as we were doing it.
Sure. And what's funny is I had to try to train one of the younger guys a few years later, like, look, dude, if you want to last a little bit of time, you got to learn how to practice.
As soon as it was a kind of I'm making the team. I don't care what my draft position was, and you just made it happen. I'm going to start this all over again, Vincent, because I think we've got had a little bit of a timing issue to start it out with. So bear with me, if you will. I'll get this all cleaned up.
Yep.
This is Vincent Brown, and I'm so pleased that to have him here and introduce him to our fans watching in the huddle. This episode is brought to you by Mark Cruz and family. Over the years, Mark has supported Patriots alumni with mentoring and advice, and along with his family, has participated in all of our events and programs. Patriots alumni and its impact in the community does not exist without Mark Cruz. Thank you, Mark Cruz and family. And Spyglass MTG, your go-to partner for Microsoft technology solutions. So let's pick up the conversation where we were leaving it. And sorry for that interruption. Anyway,
okay.
Things went off and said we finally went live, so we might as well take it up from here.
Sure.
But yeah, it was. What amazed me is I came in '76, and I was a little, green behind the gills when I first got here, and I was mentored by a guy named Bob McKay, who was going into his 7th year from the University of Texas. The Patriots had traded to Cleveland for him. To get some help that we needed on the offensive line. But he took me under his wings and taught me how to be a professional, not how to block and tackle and draw up plays, but how to act, how to act on the road, how to take care of the visiting locker room attendant, the yes sirs and the no sirs, and, shut your mouth and go out there and play hard, that type of stuff, being a pro. And you and I knew each other for all of 5 or 6 weeks when you came in as a young rookie, and they released me during training camp. 59 and 58 got to sit next to each other for just a couple of weeks, but there was an ushering in of the new. And as you just described as we were coming on live, that there was a point in time in your career where you had to usher in the new rank of players behind you. So it's been a generational transition each and every year, I think, since the NFL's existed.
Yeah, sure has, and it's one of the great things about it, coming in, all wide-eyed and energetic and, ready to make your mark. And, there are just so many tremendous veteran guys on the team, guys that I actually looked up to. Like, I would see them on Monday Night Football. I remember Howard Cosell talking about Russ Francis being all world, and Steve Grogan. And then, at that time, Andre Tippett was a certified superstar in the league. So, just some tremendous guys that helped me along the way.
Well, and you got to play with, you mentioned Andre Tippett, Donnie Blackman was around, Lawrence McGrew. There was some guys that kind of in that same generational transition to do it. But you guys, the Patriots always seem to have a lot of great leadership at the linebacker level, and I think offensively, it was always the offensive line. We set rushing records in '76 and '78. Our path to the Super Bowl in '85 was paved by, I think, the offensive line being able to run the football. On the defensive side, it was always linebackers.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Nelson was the defensive captain for the 13 or 14 years that he played with the Patriots. He had retired before you came on board, but you probably saw him around. I think he was even coaching when you probably came in.
Absolutely.
But then you had Tippett and Donnie Blackman. And then, after you came in, the Chris Slades and I mean, you saw the emergence of Ted Johnson coming in, when he was there. So it's been kind of fun watching that whole linebacker leadership role with the New England Patriots.
It really has been. And as you mentioned, coming in and really trying to learn how to be an NFL linebacker, who could you ask for better than having Steve Nelson and Don Blackman? Donnie had just retired. And then, like I said, Tip and Ed Reynolds, McGrew, Johnny Rembert, all those guys really kind of took me under their wing to show me how, this is how you do it.
Right, right. And that's where the leadership comes from. It's not, someone asked me one time, is leadership, is that a trained trait, or is that something that just happens? And I think I like to call it, unintentional leadership. It's the people that do the right things right, day in and day out, no matter who's watching. It's not like they step up and say, well, I'm going to be a leader today and become a leader. No, I think it's ingrained in them to have the kind of fabric that lends itself to leadership. And that's when I talk about the linebackers, it's the two speeds that you had, the stop and full speed. It's not a practice tempo and, okay, I only need to go half speed this time. It's trained in you, and people watch that. People see that's what's going to happen. I'll never forget my brother Stan, played 16 years in the league, and he finished his career in San Diego about the same time Rodney Harrison was coming in. Mm-hmm. And Rodney had those kind of traits and tendencies. Rodney went to Northern Illinois in college, and he was a second or third round draft pick. So he came in trying to make a name for himself, and really upset the apple cart because he was full speed, full tilt all the time. Yeah. And Stan came in the locker room one time as a 16-year veteran, and there was this rookie who was clearly upset that, no one liked him, and they were all pissed off because he didn't have a tempo speed to him at all. It was Rodney Harrison, and Stan said, just keep it up, keep pissing them off. You'll make this football team. And he went on to have a Hall of Fame career, not because of what my brother Stan said, but because of who Rodney Harrison was. And it's guys like you. I knew in the second week in training camp that you were going to be successful if you could stay healthy, just because of that trait.
Well, I appreciate that. One of the things I've kind of learned along the way, is this thing about the makeup of a player, and there's some things that, whether it be through background, high school and college coaching, that really kind of defines the makeup of the player, and some of those traits that, that allow you to go out and just play with everything you've got, and just seeing it over the years and preparing your body to be able to do the things that you're going to ask it to do on a week to week, month to month, year to year basis.
Yeah, it truly is. And you can't think in terms of, am I going to survive this? It's just a matter of letting it go and letting it all happen. The year you got drafted, the Patriots had a couple of other fine athletes with him. You had John Stevens at running back, although he had a career kind of shortened a little bit. And then Tom Reeder.
Yep, Reeder.
Tackle, and Tim Goad. And Tim Goad was one of those kind of reminded me a little bit of, same deal. I knew him for all of 6 weeks, but it was there was something pretty special about him too. I mean, there was an intensity about him to make it. I mean, he went on to have a terrific career with the Patriots as well.
He really did. And, he was, and people use this throwback, he was this throwback type player that was just nasty, hard-nosed, would just fight you tooth and nail to get the job done. Tremendous attitude towards the game, and, tough, just hard-nosed player.
Right. No, and he talking about hard-nosed, he grew up in North Carolina, which is stock car capital of the world, and he ended up being on a pit crew, I think, with NASCAR.
Yeah, that's right.
For a period of time. I do kind of keep track of him a little bit. We have a mutual friend that works for a car dealership down in Attleboro, and I get the lowdown on Tim Goad every once in a while. So it's been fun.
It was a tremendous group, and it's interesting. Me being in sports still, I've been able to stay connected with some of the guys from the draft class and many of my old teammates there through football. Um, Marvin Allen was part of that draft class, and Marvin's had a long career in the NFL and, scouting and personnel. And, I occasionally run into him, when at pro days and whatnot at the various places we've been. And Steve Johnson was a tight end drafted in that class, Virginia Tech alum. So, during my time at UVA, we would bump into each other. So been able to stay connected with a lot of guys over the years.
Well, and there's been some Patriots too. Ray Hamilton just recently retired as a coach in the NFL. I believe he was coaching on the staff when you were there.
He was.
With Eddie Kayat. I think he was one of Eddie Kayat's assistant.
Exactly right. And Ray was very.
Black, we've already mentioned, and he went on to a 20 or so year career coaching in the NFL as well.
That's right. And I actually got a chance to spend some time with Ray Hamilton. This was a few years back. He was the D-line coach with the Falcons. And I think I was at UVA at the time and went down to visit with them. And, we talked football, so, very, very generous with his time.
We had the privilege of having him. I wanted he and Tony McGee to be on this, in the huddle with me together. And we had such a great time thinking of old stories and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if you had a chance to ever meet Tony McGee, but we called him Mac the Sack, and he and Ray Hamilton were on the same defensive line that in the 70s and early 80s with it too. So it's been part of this whole thing is more of an enjoyment for me because I get to reconnect with friends and teammates, guys that like John Hanna and I were as close of friends, I think, as two teammates could be. And so he was the first guy that I had on this thing, and no one's closer to a quarterback than a center. So Steve Grogan had to be my second guy, but it's been really fun reconnecting with everyone.
Sure. It's interesting. I had great teammates, but there were just a handful of guys, as you just mentioned about Steve and John. They were more than teammates. They were brothers. Bruce Armstrong and I are very close. We talk every week or every 2 weeks at least now. And then, Ben Coates, some of those guys, we just, we developed more than a kinship as a teammate. We really did, sincerely care about each other.
Yeah, no, that's right. There's a special bond, and the two guys you mentioned weren't even position players with you, which is also curious. That's guys that you struck up friendships with. I probably talk with Steve Nelson a couple of times a month. I stay connected with Steve Grogan, although he's moved back to Kansas, and but he still seems to stay connected, and I can't get rid of my buddy Bob McKay ever. So we stay close and tight. But it's it's that same old. I guess you can't appreciate it unless you've been part of it. And I know soldiers talk about the same kind of thing. Not that anyone's shooting live bullets at us, but there's a special bond that happens to guys that go through, I think, what we go through, and people don't understand it unless they can.
Yeah, I agree. Last season, Andre Tippett's son plays on one of the opposing teams in the conference, and they were here, and I was so looking forward to seeing him, either pre or post game. And, for whatever reason, we missed each other, and we connected via, Facebook, and I was upset that I missed him, and he was upset that he missed me because, those relationships are real because of the struggles and the amount of time that you put into preparing yourself to try to play at the highest level.
Yeah. And how special is that you're able to connect with the son of a teammate?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's been great.
I see on TV this past year was when I think Tampa Bay played Green Bay in the regular season, and there was a offensive lineman at Green Bay whose father played with Tom Brady at the University of Michigan. Tom Brady's standing on the field with him. Kind of a special deal, I suppose. But you play 20 years or 21 years, and that kind of stuff happens.
Yeah, it's been a blessing. I've tried to recruit the sons of some of my old teammates. I tried to recruit Brent Williams' son to UVA, Maurice Hurst's son to UVA. They ended up going the other places. Ed Reynolds' son. So it's been pretty special.
Yeah, no question. You were in a we went to the Super Bowl in '85. You came in '88.
Mm-hmm.
I think you retired in '95. The Patriots went to the Super Bowl in '96. So you were in that kind of that spread place. Raymond Berry was the head coach that drafted you, and it wasn't long after that you seemed to get swept up in when the Patriots were transitioning and couldn't find their way through a head coach or a staff for a couple of years. It must have been strange to go through that kind of transition all the time.
It was, our first year there, we were this close to going to the playoffs. We go out to Denver and we lose to the Broncos, and we get back, and Coach Berry said, well, we'll meet Wednesday or whatever and find out what the playoff implications are. Or I can't remember the exact thing, but things kind of went downhill after that. And with the multitude of changes with the head coaches and some really, really lean years, that you just try to find the thing that keeps you motivated to do what you do. And that's why I go back to the makeup, like regardless of what point of the season, 1-15 is no fun for anybody, but you're going out and you're playing your absolute best, because that's what you're supposed to do.
Right. And some of that you must have learned and then put it into your whole makeup, because you've not coached the entire time you've been away from professional football. You were involved in different aspects in business and that type of thing. And in fact, we mentioned Mark Cruz at the top as a sponsor of Patriots alumni and all things that we do. You and Mark have struck up quite a friendship and a relationship too. And he loves to tell the story of the first time he met Tom Brady. And he wanted me to ask you if you recall the same story that he did, that Mark was asked to go down and speak to a group, the rookies coming in as part of the NFL's orientation process in what to do financially and how to act financially and be fiscally responsible and that type of stuff. And to emphasize that, he brought you down to the stadium, and there happened to be a rookie in the crowd, a 6th-round draft pick from the University of Michigan named Tom Brady, who made his way to the front to thank you.
Yeah. Mark has been a tremendous, tremendous blessing in my life. He's a great friend. He's been a mentor. He's been very supportive through since I've been there, since I was there in Foxborough as a rookie. And you mentioned trying to find the thing that motivates you, that drives you post football. And Mark was a part of that process for me, because I did some business with him, but I wasn't really passionate about it like he's passionate about it. And it wasn't until I started coaching my son, who was playing youth football at the time, that I think I found myself and I found my calling.
Well, it's certainly it's probably been a privilege of an awful lot of high school, college, and players that you've blessed with. I know you and I connected a couple of years ago. We were trying to bring our Football for You program to Hartford, Connecticut, and you were on staff at UConn and invited me down there to talk about how that staff might help us. We couldn't do it, obviously, but or we didn't get it done, not because we didn't want to, but that it was difficult dealing with the whole, the whole structure of that relationship of the city of Hartford and Rensselaer Stadium and UConn. So, and discovered that they really didn't want us running around on their football field with 200 kids from Hartford. So we ended up doing something a little bit different, but it was fun getting connected that way. But I think Mark Cruz actually set that meeting up when I told him I wanted to go to Hartford. He went, well, you know, Vincent Brown's a coach down there. I said, well, I lost track of Vincent Brown. Maybe I'll give him a jingle. So yeah, Mark's been a terrific friend. We mentioned a little bit about, I mean, so your transition went from I'm blowing up people and veterans in practice and playing in the NFL to becoming a coach. And a lot of people think because you are a great player like you were, that coaching should come easy and naturally. And I don't think that's true. It might be true in your case, but just because you're a great player doesn't make you a great coach. You have to be a teacher. What have you learned about that aspect, Vincent? What has your career taught you about that?
Yeah, you're 100% correct. You know, coaching is so much more than, you know, the athleticism, the X's and O's. The thing I've learned most, it's about the relationships that you build and mentoring and teaching and guiding. And as a player, you know, you're told to do this and you do it, you know, do it this way. And the one thing that I've come to understand is that as you develop and strengthen relationships, those relationships are the things that drive you to be able to coach a player hard, and they know that you have their best interest at heart. And being in college football, it's you know, you're still influencing and molding people. These are young kids. When they come to us, they may leave here as grown men, but they're young and they're very impressionable. And so, you know, I think it's a blessing to be in the position that I'm in as a coach, to help shape and guide the next generation of not just football players, because we tell our guys, football is just a very small portion of who you are. Even if you go on to play at the highest level, you'll be done, you know, and still be a relatively young man. What is it that you're going to do with yourself in your life once football is no longer a part? And so those are the lessons that we're constantly trying to reinforce to the kids.
You know, and I'm glad to hear that too, because I've always believed that the same things that make you successful as an athlete will make you successful in whatever you do, whether it's maintaining your grade point average to stay eligible in college, you know, in your academic pursuits, or if it's in the future in your business pursuits or family relationships or anything that you endeavor is one and the same, and it requires a sense of discipline. You got to show up. You got to show up with a good attitude. You got to be coachable in making it happen. You got to challenge yourself each and every day to learn something new every day, or to be able to do something today that you couldn't yesterday. And then you just have to work hard.
That's
you know,
right.
it's not complicated. It's just a difficult thing to stay with. But you know, those precepts and concepts will make you successful in whatever you endeavor. And the quicker that you can learn that, or have it affirmed in what you're doing, either on the field or in the classroom, the more likely are that you're going to be just a happy guy every day of your life.
That's
I think.
right. You know, I was really blessed and fortunate. The coaches that we had at Mississippi Valley, you know, they instilled in us a sense of work ethic and purpose and toughness that, you know, even for me, I had these self-imposed limitations of what I could physically do. And it wasn't until those coaches, Coach Cooley, Coach Thomas, they pushed me beyond what I thought I was capable of doing. And once you're able to break through those self-imposed barriers or limitations, the sky is the limit.
Right.
And so we're constantly like, you can do more. Like, I see in you what you don't see, you know, and you're trying to push them to reach higher and higher.
That's coaching. That's different than being a great player and trying to translate that to somebody else. That's coaching. That's what we started this little segment about discussing. So, you know, it's not often learned. So you were fortunate to learn it from people at Jerry Rice University down in Mississippi Valley, and then be able to carry that through your pro career, and now you're giving that to your charges at this point. So yeah, no, that's great stuff. How long do you think you're going to do this? How long do you think that Vincent Brown is going to be able to maintain this? Now let's talk about the weirdness that's going on with football at William and Mary this year, and not only there but other conferences around the country. You guys are getting ready now to play essentially a season in spring football.
It's very challenging. It is strange. It is unprecedented. But for those of us that love football, we're excited about the opportunity to play. We recognize that the things that we came up under, this is how you prepare, are radically different now because of the COVID-19 protocols and not able to have in-person meetings, and even practicing a different structure where you have to socially distance and practice. So it's very challenging as you start to put it all together, but the reward of being able to let the young men go out and compete, I think, is very much worth it. So we're gonna put our heads down and do the absolute best we can to compete for a CAA title here.
Now, are you going to play a full schedule?
No, we are. So in our conference, they split the conference into a northern half and southern. We're on the southern half, and so we will play a 6-game schedule in conference. There are some teams in the conference that will play 9 or 10 games outside of the conference scheduling. But for William and Mary, we're only going to play the 6 conference games and hope that we do well enough to get into the playoffs.
And there will be a playoff. Will you be contending for some sort of national
It
deal?
will be, yes. So
there's going to be other conferences that are playing in the spring league or the spring football.
Yes, there are. If my memory serves me correctly, there's going to be 12 or 14 other conferences playing. So there's a large number of FCS programs playing, and the process is going to go on just like it would have if we were playing in the fall. There's going to be, the initial rounds, and then quarterfinals and semifinals, and the national championship is going to be in Frisco, Texas, as it would have in the fall.
Huh. All right. And so somebody's going to play North Dakota State again.
Someone will play North Dakota State again.
I have to hear that from Nelly every time I see him anyway. He's kind of bison proud, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, they've been dominant.
No, they certainly have. What, eight of the last 9 they've been in it or something?
Yeah, they have been truly dominant.
Unbelievable. I got some great players coming out of it. You're seeing them in the NFL now, that's pretty important. Well, is there anything else you'd like to discuss today? Something that's meaningful in your life or going on in your life other than family, football, and God?
Well, I've been blessed. My family, or my kids are doing great. My wife is doing well. You just have to be so thankful that everyone's in a position to succeed. So I'm very, very proud of the kids and my wife and the things that they're doing. You look back on it, and I share this with the younger guys on our staff. I'm the old head on the staff that, you can't take anything for granted. Cherish every opportunity. The relationships that you build along the way are going to far outlast, the memories of a game or two. It's, as I mentioned earlier, being able to talk to Bruce and to Ben. I talk to Chris Slade every time I go to Atlanta recruiting. Those things are critically important. And I had a lot of fun in New England. There's some great games, some very memorable ones from, the '94 season, which we went to the playoffs. We lost to Bill Belichick and the Cleveland Browns, but there's some great wins along the way, and I relish the things that I was able to experience during my time in New England.
Well, it sure has done you well, and you've done the fans and the people who have followed you. You've done them well too. It's been wonderful keeping track of you and having you on this program. We Patriots Alumni is a nonprofit, and it's our mission to make sure kids always have an opportunity to play sports, particularly football here in New England. We try to pave the way to make that happen. It's been difficult trying to figure out how without getting them on the field and putting them through paces through our Football for You program. But it's efforts like this in the huddle. We're selling hunts down in Attleville, Rhode Island, that our sponsors are enjoying to try to raise funds to keep this thing going. And we're going to launch some sense of Football for You back into the community. So those of fans that are listening to us today, that's for those that don't know, Football for You is a football clinic program that we put on. The last time we did it in 2019, we went to 25 different sites from Bangor, Maine to New Bedford, Massachusetts, and all points in between, and didn't charge the kids, the community, or the parents a dime. We did all of our fundraising to make that happen, and we're hoping that we can have some semblance of Football for You going forward. What it might look like, who knows, but we're going to reach out into those communities and find out what it is that they need from Patriots Alumni. We're going to make that happen. So this effort and being in the huddle, Vincent, and having you be part of what we're doing is certainly helpful to do that. And if anyone wants to get a hold of me, I've changed my name at the bottom of my picture here on Zoom to include my email address. Please email me, or you can always find us at patriotsalumni.com if you want to get involved in helping us take this mission and message out into our communities here in New England. The fun part about this, I shouldn't say that, the interesting part of how we've learned to exist through remote learning, through remote all kinds of things, Vincent, is the fact that you're down at William and Mary. I didn't have to wait for you to come to New England to get you out in front of the fans of New England. We've got over 800 former players in our database that we can reach out to and get them sharing messages like this through technology like Zoom and Facebook Live and that kind of stuff. They could be in Los Angeles and not have to be in New England to make that happen. So it's been fun trying to figure that out. And I'd be remiss too if I didn't mention that this episode and having Vincent Brown is brought to you by Mark Cruz and family. Over the years, Mark has supported Patriots Alumni with mentoring and advice, and along with his family has participated in all of our events and programs. Patriots Alumni and its impact in the community does not exist without Mark Cruz. Thank you, Mark Cruz and family. And by Spyglass MTG, your go-to partner for Microsoft technology solutions. Do you know who's part of their marketing effort, Spyglass?
Who's that?
Steve Nelson.
Oh, wow.
Steve Nelson is firmly embedded down there. I don't know if he knows how to turn on a computer, but he can sure tell great stories and be part of. He's a great people person. So they've got quite a resource in Steve Nelson at Spyglass MTG, and they've been a big sponsor of things that we've done. So next week we're going to have Brian Holloway on with us.
Okay. Nice.
Brian Holloway is going to be joining us next week, and so stay tuned. We've got, if you want to find the roster of future ones that we've got booked, you can go to patriotsalumni.com and navigate to In the Huddle. You can also see past episodes. Tomorrow we'll have this posted on our YouTube channel, Vincent, so people that didn't have an opportunity to see you live find out about how profound and prolific you are and want to find out all the words of wisdom that you've embellished out today. Then they can certainly find you on our YouTube channel along with all the other previous interviews that we've done. Vincent, I can't thank you enough for being part of what we're doing and part of making Patriots Alumni very proud of one of its own. Thank you for that.
You have done a tremendous job with Patriots Alumni. You have taken this thing and turned it into probably the preeminent pro sports alumni association across the board. I applaud you for what you're doing. Keep it up.
I will, and you're way too kind with that. I've got an awful lot of people helping. I've got a lot of people here still in the area, and some of our not our sponsors and partners, and all of our partners with Mayo Designs have been a big help. And I got to tell you, the lovely Mrs. Brock has done an outstanding job of making sure that I stay focused on what I'm doing, and she volunteers an awful lot of her time. And you can attest to this. Without one of those, we don't exist either. So
Absolutely.
we both outkick the coverage, I'm pretty sure, on this deal.
That's exactly right.
Vincent, please stay in touch, and best of luck to you and your family, and all you're doing down there for William and Mary. I hope that they know how fortunate they are to have you on their staff. So anyway, keep up the good work, and whenever you're up visiting our mutual friend Mark Cruz, I expect to hear from you.
Absolutely. Be blessed.
Thank you very much, Vincent.
Yeah. Take care.